So thank you for that great. I do lie, but they all start with P in my organization. The 7 Ps of success. So I'll go through this. A Moncton Cultural Board meeting where we were struggling with a big question, and it was kind of a miracle. They were mostly our friends. Like we just, we'll do this and see if it works, if it sticks. And obviously, there have been enormous changes over the years. Just in the slide, you can see at the very beginning we had a very long, scary-sounding title, and basically no one can spell it. I learned persistence from my mentor when I began working in publishing, from pretty much a fly by the seat of our pants arts organization to one which currently has 2 full-time staff members. We do year-round programming. We have a proven national and international track record. Almost 400 participating authors who have all won every single major international literary award. We've had someone who has been here who has won. We annually influence more than 10,000 students, and we bring over $1 million to the local economy. And the festival itself has won a number of awards now. For years, I dreamed of having a foundation, a place where we could put money if we were ever lucky enough to have a little bit of it extra at the end of the year, and which is actually it's a great idea in the world, because on occasion, sometimes there is some left. We were fortunate enough to be approved by the New Brunswick Foundation for the Arts for their, they have a program, a foundation program. So every dollar that we put into our program, into the foundation, is matched by the provincial and the federal. Sit back and just patiently wait. Nothing's going to happen. But if you get frustrated and impatient and you go off in a million different directions, nothing gets accomplished that way either. So I think patience tempered with impatience can drive an organization for an idea that you believe in, that has merit, that you know will make the world a better place. You just keep at it. I get asked all the time how we are able to raise the funds from the corporate sector that we do at the Fyre Festival. Unfortunately, it's like losing weight. There is no magic bullet. It's persistently following up, kind of making a pest of yourself, always thinking about how you might be able to do things in a new way, who you might know, who could help you, whether you're at a gala fundraiser or at your son's hockey practice at the Red Bulls. Very busy. It would be her assistant, and she would say, she's very, very busy, and there's just no way to, really don't bother writing for about 5 years, But I kept at it. So when I ran into her in the airport in January 2010, we were being dusted for bomb residue. She knew that about the festival when I went up to her after I stopped hyperventilating, and she said, "Yes, I've heard great things about the festival, and I'd really love to come." I said, "Great! This year? No, but next year." So we did it, and we finally state how vital strategic planning is, which I'm sure is no surprise to businesswomen in this. But I think that for not-for-profits, it's absolutely critical. Going from year to year without a plan, without any long-term funding, and without a vision is dangerous, stressful, and ultimately very unhealthy. The strategic plans or organizational evaluations have really become our blueprints and guidebooks, and we refer to them. They do not get shelved. We refer to them all the time. And they give you a focus and a vision for your growth. For example, for a long time, we believed that bigger was better, that we just keep on growing and growing and growing. But I think we now know, and we learned the hard way, of course, that better is better, that we actually have cut back on some of the numbers of authors that we have during the actual festival, but we have many more events all year long. But we would never have known this if we hadn't really been strategic about it, if we hadn't done a cost-benefit analysis to find out what each event was costing and who was coming, and at least 60 separate events every year, not including the 100 kids in kindergarten right through to grade 12 to perform their own works outside of school environments. We have workshops, book clubs, meetings, dialogues, conversations, lectures, signings, jams, a gala, and the list goes on and on. There's an enormous amount of detail involved in everything that we do. And one of the most useful planning tools that we use is our databases that we keep current and live at all times. At any given moment, we know where an author is, who is picking him or her up at their school visit, who will meet them in the lobby to escort them to their reading, what time their plane leaves, what their dietary restrictions are, and if they're bringing their dog along. So that's very, very helpful. 103 partnerships at Fyre. Having at least put down in words what the expectations are on each side so that we're speaking the same language. And that's been very, very helpful. And that makes it so that, you know, there are no surprises and everybody knows what they're in for. So we have all kinds of different partnerships, 103 I mentioned, we're very proud of that. Obviously we work with libraries, and this is very beneficial to both. They have lots of great books, and they have lots of great meeting spaces, so we do lots of things with libraries, but at the same time, we help them out. We bring 1,500 kids for Kids Fest to the Moncton Public Library every year, and you'd be surprised how many of those kids don't have library cards, because it's not necessarily part of the culture of going to the library every Saturday, like I did when I was a kid. We work with publishers. They help us out. Often they'll pay for some expenses, travel expenses for the authors, and you know, we sell their books and market them. We work with writing associations. The YMCA, for example, we've been working with them with their peer youth mentor program for many years, which is an amazing program. We work with the Boys and Girls Club, Alliance Française, other literary festivals across Canada. We do a lot of sharing of expertise. We've worked with FICFA, the French film festival, because their festival takes place in the fall, we take place in the spring, so we've actually swapped employees, which has been a great way to share expertise. And this year we're working with the ECMAs, and we've been sharing staff and expertise. They're 2 weeks before the festival this year, so April's going to be just jam-packed a month in this year. And really, partnerships that's the only way we can survive in the not-for-profit past. What comes first in the development of an arts organization? Programs or funding? Grow, develop, or improve without money. Unless you're at the Luminato Festival in Toronto. I don't know if anyone caught that. They had a $3 million budget their very first year. We didn't. But as you all know, money just doesn't come to you. It is hard work, and it isn't work that volunteers generally want to do. The festival has been inordinately lucky in the wonderful board members it has attracted, and I say attracted, but often it is lured, over the years. We've also had amazing volunteers who have given so much. Many of our board members have had terms of 6 to 9 years and counting. So basically, once you're involved, it's kind of like Hotel California. There's no way out. So more than 125 volunteers contributed more than 5,000 volunteer hours last year. But volunteers don't want to prepare 50-page grant proposals for the government, spend hours on the tedious spreadsheets that come along with them that are never, ever the same, write the creative approaches for how we will put the money to good use, how we will measure the impact of our programming, etc. There have been a lot of dark moments, mostly concerning finances. There have definitely been years in which we fervently hoped that all the authors would not cash their checks at the same time. Luckily, lots of them lose them or forget, so that's okay. And I guess it's because my father was an accountant that finances have always been my personal biggest worry at the festival. As I've mentioned, fundraising has always been, and probably always will be, challenging. We're organizing a literary festival in a province that hasn't traditionally put much value on literacy. But pain is not always a bad thing. Pain can lead to growth. In 2006, the festival was, strong, and it had 6 years under its belt, and yet fragile, much like an egg. Sound in its shell, but one good hard crack and we would have been scrambled. So up to that point, we were relying primarily on government support, which, as you know, is not something that is steady or that you have any guarantee will come year after year and varies all the time. However, at that time, we had a seismic shift in our approach. We went from begging for money, arm twisting, oh, just give us some money and we'll do something really good with it, to approaching corporations with an eye to helping them with their marketing, getting them to the audience that they want and need, and solving their pain. Now, this may sound simple and obvious to you, but it was an enormous attitudinal shift for us, and I think generally in the not-for-profit world. and it has paid enormous dividends. We now have a number of national sponsors who support the festival year after year, some of which over the years had never ever invested 1 cent in New Brunswick before. And they do this because we can take their brand to places that they can't get to on their own through their association with a well-respected community project. Now, I probably spend at least 75% of my time on corporate fundraising, often working on the same sponsor for 2 years before we get a deal. Crazy to work here, but it helps. I take fundamental job of the imagination in ordinary life is to produce out of the society we have to live in a vision of the society we want to live in. And I believe this passionately. And what we are doing here in Moncton, we are inspiring people to see the power of imagination in books and ideas to change lives and to create a vision for a better world. I absolutely believe that at the very core of my being. I particularly love what we're doing in our schools with the 10,000 kids getting the chance to meet a real live author every year in their classrooms. But also for the creative kids in our somewhat sports-obsessed community, giving them the chance to shine. It's just a huge part of the process of changing attitudes about what it means to be literate in our society. Making words interesting, exciting, and rewarding for kids is vital. We know that fine, imaginative prose and poetry not only educate the imagination, but must also become a child's first and foremost teacher of reading, writing, and articulate speaking. By putting kids in contact with the word experts who tangibly demonstrate what happens when emotions and imaginations are engaged, kids can see the wonder and delight of what words can be made to do. Literacy, after all, must begin in hearts, not heads. I think we all know about the abysmal literacy stats in our province and how it is such an enormous challenge for our province to move ahead into the knowledge-based economy. We at the festival believe that concerted efforts must focus on youth literacy, particularly at the early childhood education, primary and secondary levels. The rationale is simple. Benefits accrue over a longer time span than adults. Also, literacy appears to be a virtuous circle in skill development. Higher literacy promotes greater education that in turn lifts literacy and helps to develop skills. What is the economic impact of low literacy rating and writing and critical thinking through a wide variety of approaches? I don't know if any of you saw, but I think it was about a week and a half ago, the Globe and Mail had an editorial and it was focusing on Ontario kids. And it was talking about the fact that they're reading okay and the comprehension wasn't bad, but they almost, I can't remember the stat, but it was huge. They hated reading. So what we're trying to do is, because they are reading, they have to read their video game manuals, don't they? They have to, they're reading, but to recapture that fun of, getting into a book and loving it.